Hey everyone, I've had my OMTech Polar for around a month now. I also bought a bunch of upgrades and accessories for it, but I wanted to make sure I was comfortable using it straight out of the box first before I installed anything. And I think I'm at that point now, so I'll show you everything I'm going to install today. Alrighty, I got my makeshift little pointer here, so I'll go through everything with you. I'll also have timestamps in the YouTube video. So if you don't want to watch the entire thing, you just want to skip to the areas that interest you most, you can do that. So if there's any other YouTube videos that I've watched myself that I believe helped me a lot, I'll share the links below as well. I'll also include where to purchase all these things from and where to download some of these files that you can print yourself. I'll quickly go through the 3D printed stuff first. Right, the housing for the control board, I've downloaded that from Thingiverse. I've altered it so it's easier to print. It's got better vent holes. When you're printing it, you don't have to have any supports. These are great to hold your wood down onto your Honeycomb. I print them in 100% infill and they work great. They're flawless. I printed these riser feet. They go underneath the feet of the Polar Laser. And with that, it just lifts the whole machine up so you can do larger tumblers with the rotary attachment. So there's an interior fan at the back of the machine, and I'm gonna take it out because it's really noisy and it can restrict the flow from the external fan that comes with the machine. I haven't had much issue with it, but I'm gonna, take it out anyway, and if I want to put it back in the future, I always can. When you take the fan out, it leaves a massive gaping hole around the edges, and that's where this comes in, this 3D printed ring. That goes in place of the fan, and it doesn't look like a big, ugly gaping hole anymore, and it helps with the airflow as well. So we've also got a Mass Effects red dot pointer. That gets installed back here, and then it shines a laser through the mirror, and then a little laser dot onto where your work area is, just to help you pinpoint where you want to engrave. A company called Mass Effects make them. Looks like they make distortion pedals for guitar and music and stuff. There's, of course, they got a video that's great, which I'll be sharing. And a company called DS Advantage make this upgraded nozzle. It's fantastic because all you do is pull this out and you clean the lens, that lens goes in there, and you put it back in, and it's just made so well. I mean, that out of all these accessories, that was the most expensive thing I purchased, but it's going to save me so much time because with the stock nozzle, to clean the inside, you pretty much got to pull the whole thing apart, and it just makes no sense to me at all. With this, all you have to do is pull that out, clean both sides of the lens, and put it back in, and you're done. That's it. You have to buy the actual lens separately, but that's not a big deal, I guess. And again, I'll share where I got that from. So if something happens to the Polar and like there's an error, all it does is has a red ring where the laser start button is. And you won't really know what the issue is. With this controller, it'll tell you what the issue is, and also you can have a little live screen. You can move the laser nozzle back and forth, and there's a bunch of other settings too. It's just a really good upgrade that I'm pretty sure I'm going to getting a lot of use from. And Cloudray make that. One of the issues I've had straight out of the box, stock standard with the Honeycomb tray, is it is loose in there. So I designed these 3D printed stops that go in the front of the Honeycomb on both sides. I'll show you that in a second. And they just screw in and it stops the Honeycomb from moving. And if you want to take them out, it's easy enough to unscrew the tightening screws and take them off and remove the Honeycomb tray. Something else about the Honeycomb itself, if you haven't purchased your Polar yet, or you've only recently purchased it, there's a secret I'm going to share with you guys, but it results in you do not need to upgrade your Honeycomb, but I'll share that with you soon. And finally, before I forget, I purchased an automatic shutoff switch. Let's just pull it out to turn it on, and push it to shut it off. There's no super need for this. I just think it looks cool on the Polar, and it means I don't have to put the key in the front of my machine and have it hanging there all the time. One thing I'm doing when I'm having a look to see how my cut's going is I'm putting my arm on the start-stop button, and you can imagine what happens when you do that. So I've laser cut the Perspex disc with a hole in the middle, so it stops you from accidentally shutting your machine off. So that'll be the first upgrade I do. Alrighty, so as you can see, I just cut 2 discs. That goes on top of there. I'll glue that in place. And then the whole thing just goes on top of my button. So if I accidentally bump it now, nothing's gonna happen. If I need to shut it off, I'll just push that down. So the perfect thickness of acrylic I use is 5 millimeters. So there's 2 5 millimeters, making 10 all up. And it just sits on top just perfectly. So now I'm going to install the automatic stop switch that goes right there. So we've got to remove the side panel. There's a couple Phillips head screws here, and there's a cable for the LED light strip, and some other cables under there I'll get to in a second. Make sure you push it back in the little hole in there. So it's down here now. Don't forget to turn the power off on your laser and unplug the power. Very important. 2 more ribbons I got to take out, that one and that one. Now to take the cover off, I'm going to press against the back wall and slowly start prying it up carefully. There's a couple clips that'll come undone. You just got to be really careful that you don't snap. Oh, there's another cable too. That cable needs to come out as well. There we go. Those, you want to make sure you're not snapping these off from there and there. You put that in a safe spot so you don't drop it, because it is glass and it will break. With the cover open, now would be a good time to top off your water level if you need to. Maybe give the inside a bit of a clean. So I was watching a YouTube video on Edmund Workshop's channel, and he actually removed the shrink wrap, the heat shrink, by just pulling it down. So I'm going to attempt to do the same thing here with the back of the switch. Then I can reuse it. It's working fine. There we go. Unscrew this plastic nut. The whole thing should come this way. Release that washer. There we go. This one's the same. Unscrew the nut. Remove the washer. Make sure it's upside down like that, like the other one was. Put it in the front. Put the washer on. And screw the plastic nut back on. Alright, so again, make sure your power is turned off. This will give you a shock if you touch the red and blue at the same time. So you got to make sure the blue is on the far left hand side and the red is on the far right hand side. Put the plastic back down. What this will do is, when I turn the machine on, we'll do a test on it. I'm going to plug the machine back in. Alright, it's on, and I push the button, and and the machine shuts off. That's the way it's supposed to work. You turn it right to open it, to turn the machine on, and to shut it off, you push the button. Simple as that. And again, do not touch anything when the machine's turned on. I'm going to unplug the machine, turn the power off, and then I'm going to put the heat shrink tube back in. Actually, I'm going to give it a bit of a squeeze first, just to make sure it's on there really good. Let's put the heat shrink tube back on now. Nice and carefully. Don't want anything to come undone. Now I'm going to carefully put the cover back on. I'm going to attach this first. That's this one here. There we go. And then I'm going to carefully put it down. Just make sure nothing's pinching. Might have to push the wall in a bit. There you go. Push the wall in the side here. And push it in the back here. And it's a lot easier getting it back on, I think, than taking it off. Now I've got to fish the wire back through here to get to the LED. Might have been an easier way to do this. Oh, let's drag that forward. It makes it much easier. Plug it back into here. There we go. Tuck the rest back in. Make sure the light's working. No, well, turn it on. Light's working. Now, I'm just going to install the other 2 ribbon cables underneath, and I'm going to put the 2 screws back in. Let's remove the fan now and install that 3D printed bracket thingo in its place. Got to undo these 4 screws here, and hopefully that will come out. And we can unscrew the fan and put that there. Pretty sure this rubber thing needs to come out. Should be able to do it without unscrewing the little port for the rotary attachment. So should be able to leave it like that, I think. So the fan has a cable there. I'll just unplug that. Just leave it tucked in there for now. And let's unscrew that. Now, if you don't have a lot of room to get to the back of your fan, which I don't, got a little stubby screwdriver with the hex bit on it. Don't ask me what size that is, I have no idea. So I've got to put a mini screwdriver in the back of the screw, and it needs a pair of pliers to undo the nuts, 4 of them, on the other side. Wish me luck. Ta-da! Dusty already. Now that goes in here. And then that cover goes back. Something like that. Without it, it'll just leave a gaping hole. And I don't see the exhaust working very well with it like that. Also hard to clean in there. This rubber, it's like a pass-through. It'll come out. Looks like that. What I've noticed is it wants to come out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a couple pins, just little draw pins or something, into the rubber, one here and one here, just so it doesn't fall out. I'm never gonna use that anyway, that feature, so it's just, otherwise it just keeps wanting to come out. I don't want to put them all the way down because I do not want them to puncture this hose that's here. Looks scary in there. And that's the fan removed and the insert put in. All done. Wasn't too bad. Next up are these 3D printed risers. They'll go under the feet, which will raise the whole machine up a bit. And that'll allow me to engrave larger tumblers with rotary attachment plugged in. And if I do this now, it'll also give me a bit more room to install the nozzle. So let's do that now. So again, I got a lot more room to install the nozzle with those risers on, which is great. Probably just screw that down probably as far as I can get it. Just gives me some room to unscrew the old nozzle and take it out. I'm going to start by unplugging the air hose. Then I'm going to unscrew the bit where the hose attaches to. Just unscrews. There it is. There's a nut up here, plastic nut or metal nut. I'm going to unscrew that. That falls off. And then this, I believe I'll just come straight out. Well, there you go. It's not hard. Comes out quite easily. Whoops, don't drop it. Another awesome thing about this nozzle is you're not restricted by which direction you can put it in, because that spins around where the air tube goes in. So it can go in any direction, and where you pull the end out to clean the lens can be in any direction as well. So it's a really awesome design. I'll start by unscrewing the top. And I'll just place that in the hole where the old nozzle was. There we go, just like that, that's it. Okay? Then I'll take the bottom part and screw that back in. Didn't get much easier than that. Tighten it a little bit, put that in the direction you want, and put the top thing in the direction you want. Tighten it a bit more. Beauty. Now I'll put the air tube back in. Now I'll pull this out and install the lens. The lens has a bubbled side and a flat side. You want the bubble side up, and sometimes it's really hard to tell because it just looks exactly the same from both sides. So if you put it on a flat piece of paper and just sort of wobble it like that, if you feel it wobbling, you know it's on the bubble side. If I put it on the flat side, it's not moving at all hardly. It's rocking, and it's flat. A little ring in here unscrews. Make sure leave it the right way up. Make sure again that that's flat. That's rocking, flat, that way up. sure it sits flush. And put the ring back on. Just carefully screw it back in. Got little teeth on both sides if you need to use something to help you turn it. I don't think you do. Just use your nails. Pretty sure you don't want to damage it. Looks pretty good. That's why it makes it so easy to clean, this new nozzle. It's gonna be a breeze. Okay, so the DS Advantage nozzle sits about 3 millimeters higher than the standard stock nozzle that's in your machine. So there's a few settings you gotta do to compensate for this. Cam from Edmund's workshop has a video that explains it a lot better than I can. So I'll go through it, but I'll also link his video below as well. So let's go to Edit, go to Machine Settings. Let's find Vendor Settings. Tap down, go OK or Yes. Z Excess Settings. Home Offset. And this needs to be set to 3 apparently. Let's set it to 3. Then let's hit right. And OK. Now we're going to turn the machine off and on so the settings take effect. And now I can do a test cut to see what happens. Look at that, worked perfectly. Next up are these locking wedges that I designed and 3D printed. They take a small little screw that spreads out the little wedge inside the rectangle size hole that's in the rail that's beside the honeycomb that slides in. And this just stops your honeycomb from wiggling around on you. So we'll do that next. All the screw does is spreads the wedge that's inside and tightens it. And it's not going anywhere. Just getting back to the beginning of the video, when I mentioned I had a bit of a secret about the honeycomb bed. When I purchased my Polar, I was going to upgrade the honeycomb with a magnetic one. But when I got it, I realized it's already magnetic. So that's pretty awesome. So it looks like when you buy a new Polar nowadays, it comes with a magnetic bed. So there's definitely no need to upgrade there. Next up is the Cloudray Ruida control board that I'm going to install. Ooh, had to do that. So the control board allows you to do a number of things. You can move the gantry up and down and left and right. There's a ton of different settings. You can have a preview of what you're actually cutting or engraving. And also, if there's any errors that come up on the Polar, it only has like a red line, a red ring around there, so you have no idea what it is. And this control panel will actually tell you what the errors are. So I've 3D printed this case that the control board will go into, and it's quite easily, it fits in there a bit snug, that's all right. And then that'll just sit on the side of the Polar like that. So if you own a 3D printer or you know someone that does, I'll have the files to print this yourself below. And I've also installed these rubber feet, just glued them in. So to start, we're going to remove the left-hand panel, which is very similar to when we removed the right one before. Okay, like the right hand side panel, the left hand side is pretty much just as easy to remove, if not it's probably easier. We're just going to unplug the power first and open the lid. There's a couple screws here to undo, and there's a ribbon cable for the LED light strip, and there's no other cables underneath to undo, so again, it makes it a little bit easier. That one's a bit tight.
Yes, you are tight like a tiger.
There we go. One. Oh, two. And there is another cable again. Gotta do that one. And again, with the panel, make sure you put it somewhere safe because it is glass and it can break on you. All right, so in this side, we have the control panel underneath this panel here. That's the radiator. We won't be touching that, but we will have some leads going down the side of it. So I'll just unscrew that first, those 3 screws. So there's the main brains of the operation. The USB plugs in there that goes in your computer. The control panel will plug it in down here. So I'll have to unscrew this whole thing to get access to it. Just unplug that first so I can get access to that screw. Has a little washer there as well, so just be careful you don't lose it. There's only 2 screws holding it in, so probably all you need. Make sure you get that washer. Now it's just easier to maneuver around and plug things into there and everything, so just be careful and do one step at a time. Alright, so I have a male to female USB cable, so I'm going to plug that into here first. This is not to plug into your control board or anything. It's to use a USB dongle with your files on there so you can access it through your control board. I'm going to carefully feed this wire beside the controller, the USB cable. I'm going to feed it under the gantry. Slide it forward. Tuck it in down below. And the other end of the USB, I'm just going to put it through this LAN port area here. I'm going to unscrew that because I don't use it. And that'll be the hole in the back of the machine that all my wiring will go through. The USB lead and also the lead for the control board. Before I plug in the control board, I'm just going to run the lead through the opposite way from the back. It's a bit tighter, so it needs to go on a bit of an angle. But it will fit, you just got to be careful. There you go. Again, it's going to go beside the radiator and underneath the gantry. Okay, so there's the end. And it gets plugged in down here. Just got to carefully maneuver things to make it work. If it clicks, it means it's good. Tucking it back under again. Just make sure the gantry is not hitting anything. Beauty. I'll plug that back in too. Right, so the next is the panel gets screwed back on top and then you're done. But because I'm going to install the red dot pointer, I need to have access to the board again, so I'm not going to screw that down just yet. I don't like how this LAN port I'm not using sticks out like that. It sort of bumps into the gantry a little bit. and it wants to touch the glass tube. So I'm just going to cut the cable tie and just sort of feed it in behind all the wires and just tuck it down below. You'll also need to cable tie everything down so it stays in there. Before you put the left panel back on, I just want to plug the machine back in, which I have. Turn the power on just to make sure I've got communication with the board and it turns on. Just got to change the control panel to English. So you just push ZU and you want to go all the way down, back up to that top right-hand setting. Push enter. Then you can see where English is, 2 down, and enter again. And everything's English now. It's that simple. So I'm going to install the Mass Effects red dot pointer. It goes up into here, sits on that, and what that does is it shines the red laser beam through there, bounces off that glass, and then onto that mirror, then back down into the nozzle, and puts a little red dot so I can see where it's going to cut. It also allows for the actual laser itself, which is there, to shine through that at the same time. So it's pretty ingenious. So like before, there was only a couple screws on the side plate here and a ribbon for the LED strip and another ribbon underneath. Once it lifts up, you can see it. It's for the little sensor there. And again, make sure you hold on to the walls, push them aside to get past these clips so you don't break these little plastic ends here. They can break really easily. You can see mine's gone a little bit white. I'm just doing it once. Then there'll be 3 screws for the plate that will reveal the panel, which we're going to use for the 5-volt power and the ground. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is find the power lead to this, which is here. I'm just going to unplug it, and I just need this for now. I'm going to put the actual laser pointer aside. On the control panel, I need 5 volts. There's a free one right here in that, and I need a ground. There's a free one here in the ground. Now I've seen people struggle with this control board trying to lift it up and trying to unscrew the tightening screw to try to get the wire in there, when all you need to do is unplug these. There you go, there's one, it's unplugged. Now I'll unplug this one. There we go. That's going to make it so much easier. When I plug this back in, the 5 volts going on the far left hand side, and the ground, when that gets plugged back in like that, the ground goes on the far right hand side. Just going to screw the control board back down. I had it unscrewed from when I installed the control panel. Make sure you don't drop the screw. And I should have got a magnetic screwdriver. So let's try that again. I'm going to tuck everything in there, just carefully. The power wire I'll just leave over here, tucked out of the way. I'm only going to put these 2 screws in right now. I'm not going to put this 3rd one in there, and I'll show you why in a sec. I might just move that to the side just for now, just there. Okay, I'm just going to seat the red dot on this track here, and just so it's flush down on top of it. Just have a look underneath, make sure the screws aren't sticking out before you do this, or there's nothing else in the way. This is 3D printed, this bottom part here. You just want to be careful when you put it on the track. You're not pushing down too hard or bending it. When you tighten the screws, you want to make sure you don't over tighten them, because again, it's just plastic. MassFX has a great video on YouTube on how to install this. But the only difference between his video and mine is the newer Polars don't have the cutout channel in here. He recommends having this right up sort of flush to where that cutout is. But saying that though, it's roughly the same width of this black thing. So I'm pretty sure if I measured that and did the same distance to here and placed it around there, I'm going to be fine. And I will be linking the MassFX YouTube video below as well. So I just want to seat it down till it goes flush. I want to make sure I don't accidentally go like that and snap the thing. Now I definitely have to use a small Allen key to tighten the screws up behind here. There's one there, there's one on the other side. It's probably the most challenging part, is getting behind there to tighten them up. So don't over tighten them, that's all. It's hard to tell how tight they're getting because the 3D printed plastic gives a lot. Okay, the hole in the plate that we didn't put the screw in, that's where the drag chain is going to go. So it's going to use a cable tie and put it through the hole of it, and then put it through this hole and try to maneuver it up so I can grab the bottom of it. Probably be better to take the whole plate off, but I've already screwed mine back in. Let's just go with that. Tighten it up there. Okay. That's it. That can just sit flush now. Probably bent it a little bit. Probably put it back down. That's better. That's all right. So now when the gantry comes through here, we should clear all that pretty well. Let's cut the excess cable tie. Now what I'm going to do is plug the power back in. And I have all this left over, which is just going to get tucked in under the board. So probably should have put the board on after, screwed it down here. But I'm sure if I'm careful enough, I can tuck it all underneath. Okay, that's still flush the same way. It's all level. Just test it. Turn the power on quickly. You can see the red laser shining, which means the 5-volt power is working. So if you look closer, you can see where the red dot's pointing right on my air tube. So it needs to be pointing in the middle of the mirror here, so we can reflect down onto my workpiece. So there's a few adjustments I have to make, which I'll go through with you. So when I give the top a little bit of a squeeze, top left-hand side, it wants to sort of go down. The right-hand side wants to go down as well. So if I squeeze it between here and here, the bottom and the top on this side, it's starting to go to the left. So when I am squeezing and adjusting the laser beam, I don't want to tighten these screws, I want to tighten the nuts. So if I slowly squeeze out a bit and then slowly turn the nut this way or that way, then you'll be able to let go and see where the laser is going. Tiny squeeze, move the nut a tiny bit, let go and see what it's done. A bit more that way. And that's centered for me. You want to see it right in the middle, and you'll see the dot on your workpiece. Now the last step is to shoot a little pulse, which will put a little burn mark in my material. And I want to make sure when the little spot burns, it's going to be right on top of that red dot. So if it ends up being like over here a bit, you need to adjust the red dot sensors a bit more to get to that point. But you can't do a pulse on this machine without the panels back on and the lid closed. So there's a setting in light burn that I'll have to use to bypass the sensors. I just got to be careful I don't touch the laser while I'm doing it. Okay, to disable the safety so I can fire the laser with the cover off, you just got to go to Edit, Machine Settings, and let it load. You want to drop down to Vendor Settings. If that's like that, you just push it again, it'll open up. Go to Enable Door Protect, and you want it to say false. I'm gonna have to click it a couple times. False. Don't push OK, push right first, right. Say successful, and then OK. But the laser will now fire with that door opened and the slide plate removed. So I'm going to do a little test fire. It's called Pulse. Even though I got the side plate off for safety, I'm going to close the door. And just make sure you're wearing safety glasses and you're away from the laser. Now, to me, that is so spot on that I don't have to adjust the beam at all. It's perfect. I'll go with that. No more adjustments needed. That's awesome. Now the most important step is to re-enable the safety. So I'm going to go back to Edit, back to Manage Settings, let it load again. Scroll down to Vendor Settings, and under Vendor Settings, Enable Door Open Protect. Make sure that goes to True. I have to click it a couple times. Go right, and wait for it to say Successful. Then push OK. Now it's safe again. Time to put the side cover back on. So you push the sides out. It's in. And don't forget the little lead for the LED light strip. Well, that's all the accessories and upgrades done. Don't forget, in the description below, I'll have all the timestamps of the steps I took along the way. You can feel free to go back and forth as often as you want to help you out. Also linked below, I'll have all the different 3D print files and cut files, anything else that I've used to help me. Where you can purchase these items from, there'll be links for that. And most importantly, any video that helped me along the way, I'll link those in the description as well for you guys. All right, so I hope you enjoyed, and please leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that crazy stuff. And thank you very much for watching. See you guys.